Paramount Pictures presents...
My name's Forrest Gump. People call me Forrest Gump.
The story of a man...
Are you stupid or something?
Stupid is, stupid does, sir.
...who was good at just one thing. Life. Tom Hanks.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Forrest Gump. Rated PG-13. Starts Wednesday, July 6th at theaters everywhere.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Forrest Gump starts right now. Okay, we are back with another episode of the Couchbrotatopodcast, and with me, as always, is my co-host, my partner in crime, the Robin to my Batman, or however you want to do it, Lucas. Lucas, what's happening, my friend?
Not much, man. Hopefully I evolve into Nightwing at some point, so I'm not just Robin.
It's happening. I mean, if I'm Batman, like, I'm really laying low. Like, I've got a modest house, modest car. My wife, she's very beautiful. That part I've got with Batman, but outside of that, though, it's not really. The Batman thing's not happening for me.
Well, we're both having dreams about beating the shit out of people, so, you know, maybe that's our calling.
Maybe that or the world of professional wrestling. I don't know.
That too.
Well, this week, we decided to take an episode that a movie Lucas wanted to do, and he chose his favorite movie of all time. Am I correct? You said that last week?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, this week we're doing Forrest Gump.
Such a great movie.
It's a good one. It's a good one. We'll get into that here in a minute. But why Forrest Gump, besides it being your favorite movie?
I think it has an interesting story. Plus, I'm a big history buff, so the movie intertwining with history is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good points. Well, I tell you what, we'll get into the tale of the tape, and then we'll kind of get into a few talking points I got. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
All right, the tale of the tape. This movie was released on July the 6th, 1994, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who also did Back to the Future, which you can check out in the vault. Just check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. We did a Back to the Future watch-along. This one stars Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Gary Sinise, Michael T. Williamson, and Sally Field. The Rotten Tomatoes score for this one is 71% from critics, and it has a 95% audience rating. $683 million at the box office on a $55 million budget.
It's pretty incredible, and that's like pre-China.
That's over $1 billion now. I think at the time it was like the third or fourth highest grossing movie of all time. Accolades, it did win 6 Academy Awards. It won Best Picture. Tom Hanks won Best Actor, his second in a row. And Robert Zemeckis also won Best Director. In 2011, this was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the U.S. Library of Congress. And unfortunately, this movie is not streaming anywhere right now, which really baffles me. Second Paramount movie in a row that is not on Paramount Plus. The Wayne's World movies aren't on there either. Come on, Paramount, get your shit together.
Yeah, that's an odd choice. You think you would want to have one of the biggest movies of its time.
Yeah, but Paramount, apparently not. They'd rather just give you 9,000 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I'm sure that somebody out there is happy about that.
Yeah, I just pissed somebody off mentioning Star Trek in a sarcastic tone. While I was doing some research on this, 1994, that was a banger of a year for movies.
Yeah.
Besides Forrest Gump, we had Shawshank Redemption, we had Pulp Fiction, Speed, The Lion King, Clerks came out this year, True Lies, Natural Born Killers. Some pretty good ones.
The Santa Claus, the Flintstones, Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber was one too, yeah.
Clear and Present Danger.
Mm-hmm.
The Mask. What a year.
Yeah, I pretty much lived at the movie theater in 1994. I seen every single movie that you mentioned on that list in a movie theater.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, is this the best movie of 1994?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay, why is it the best movie of 94? This is an argument that you and I have had in private many times, and I just want to bring it to the forefront. We have to have the people decide this one for us. Why is this the best movie of 94 to you?
To me, it's just the acting, the movie itself. Like, you felt you really wanted Forrest Gump to win throughout this whole thing. And, any movie that makes you want the main character to be the winner at the end of it, always a winner in my book. And I don't know, maybe I just like Tom Hanks more than the actors in the other movies in 94.
Well, with that, doesn't Forrest Gump pretty much win in life outside of not getting Jenny to love him? I mean, he becomes a college football hero on accident. He becomes a billionaire. He gets fame and recognition. The only thing he doesn't get is Jenny, which he does at the end. And sorry if I'm spoiling the movie for you, but this movie came out in 94, gang.
Yeah,
you've had plenty of time to watch
it by now, then there's something really wrong with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. He does win a lot, but I don't know. Maybe it's the underdog part of it. The fact that he's mentally slow. I don't know if I can actually relate to it, but I feel like the whole underdog story, the guy that can make his life great through adversity. I kind of relate to that. So I feel like even as a kid, I always felt like I related to Forrest Gump somehow.
Okay. Well, those are fair points. I of the belief, and I even had this belief back when I seen him in 94, that I didn't think it was the best picture of 1994.
And which one did you think was?
I still believe this to this day, that Pulp Fiction is the best movie of 94. I felt it the minute I got out of the movie theater from seeing, actually, funny story about that real quick. I couldn't go see that. I had to have this older couple buy me a ticket to get into it, because for some reason our movie theater had these high standards that they weren't letting kids see rated R movies at this time. The only period they ever done this was the summer of 94. That was it. They didn't give a fuck about it any other time but 94. And I wish I knew those people.
High horse that year.
Yeah, I wish I knew those people. I would give them a shout out right now. But Pulp Fiction did something that I had never seen in a movie prior to that, and they had this narrative you'd never really seen a movie filmed and put together the way that was, the jumping time frames back and forth, the real snippy dialogue. They really embraced pop culture in a way that I had never seen a movie done before. And it's something that I had never seen at the time, and now you see it constantly. Anytime there's a crime movie with an ensemble cast, they try to capture the magic of that movie, and no one's done it quite as well. And then even Shawshank Redemption, which I don't know if you know this, but Pulp Fiction, Shawshank, and Forrest Gump were all nominated for Best Picture in 94.
Which they should have been. Now, one point that I will agree with you is I think that Quentin Tarantino should have won Best Director.
Yeah.
Now, I still think that Forrest Gump is the best movie, but I feel like Quentin Tarantino is the best director.
Yeah, which I notice the Academy does that more now. They will split the vote to reward somebody who they may not think the movie's as good as the best picture, but they'll still give the best director for oh, hey, you did an awesome job. This is going to be your reward. You're not going to win best picture, but you're going to get best director.
Yeah.
But back then, it's usually if you won best director, you're winning best picture too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, but the point that you make about Pulp Fiction is a really good one. And I love Pulp Fiction, and I love Shawshank Redemption too. Neither one of them are as quotable. So that's another thing with Forrest Gump.
I will disagree with Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction has a ton of quotable dialogue. And we have used Shawshank in dialogue before. We even described our work situation back earlier this year as you and I were Andy and Red in Shawshank.
That's true.
which you ended up being Andy. You got out before I did.
Neither one of us are at the Pacific Ocean swimming in Mexico.
We are not in
though.
San Juantaneo yet.
Yeah.
But no, like even Shawshank, I think Shawshank is just a beautifully acted, a beautifully just written story that just seems like you can put that movie in the 1940s and you can put it in contemporary times and it still is as great then. And like watching Forrest Gump today, I still think it's a great movie, but it doesn't resonate with me. As I've gotten older, it doesn't quite resonate with me the way that it did back in 94, whereas the other two do that. And I think when I described in the Dark Knight episode, I said that the Academy should go back and just like 5 years redo their Oscars and like, hey, we made a mistake. This would be one of those years I think they could do that too.
That's
But hey, like I said, Forrest is a good movie, and I think Tom Hanks is phenomenal. It's really well acted. Robert Zemeckis did something at the time that really you didn't see a lot of, but it just, I don't know, sometimes it comes across to me as a little too sappy.
Yeah.
But still a great movie. I'm not dogging it at all, and I think it's going to be a really good episode. I'm really, I want to hear your enthusiasm in this one because you said this is your favorite movie. So,
it is.
So you better fucking act like it when we talk about it.
Dude, the fucking and the music in it. Oh man.
Oh,
music
hey.
in it.
Hey, we're going to talk about the soundtrack. It's coming.
I'm giving you that enthusiasm.
Okay. You can pull your pants up, please. All right. We'll get into the research corner here real quick before we dive into the categories. First off, Bill Murray, John Travolta, and Chevy Chase all turned down the role of Forrest Gump. Thank goodness. I can't see any of them as Forrest Gump. None of them.
Yeah.
Travolta, maybe. But, I mean, we wouldn't have gotten Travolta in Pulp Fiction either.
True.
I don't know. Were you a fan of the movie Night Court or the television show Night Court? 80s program. It's probably a little before your time.
Yeah, it's a
like
little
most
before my time.
most of the people that listen to this show probably don't remember this show. But Harry Anderson, he was the star of the television show Night Court, was actually the first choice to play Forrest Gump. But studio shot him down. And then he also considered Bill Paxton. For Forrest Gump.
I think I could see Bill Paxton doing this.
I possibly could see that too. And then author Winston Groom, who wrote the Forrest Gump book, wrote the character with John Goodman in mind to play him in a movie.
Now, I wonder if that's... Was the show Roseanne out yet?
Yeah.
Then?
Yeah, Roseanne was
Okay.
already on the air.
I wonder if that's why. I wonder if he saw him on Roseanne and saw that working class guy and, thought that would be a good fit.
Well, in the book, I guess Forrest Gump is like 300 pounds plus.
Oh.
So that kind of makes sense too, because John Goodman's a big fella.
Yeah.
Not so much now, but he was.
Right.
David Alan Grier, Ice Cube, and Dave Chappelle all turned down the role of Bubba. Ice Cube is quoted as saying he didn't want to play an idiot, and Dave Chappelle thought it would bomb. Chappelle says in interviews later on he regrets turning down the role.
Yeah, I would too. This movie won an Oscar, so it won a couple of them. So anytime you turn down an Oscar-worthy movie, I'm sure you feel that for a while.
Oh, I'm sure. I thought this was kind of funny. Warner Brothers held the rights to the film originally. They decided to opt out after Rain Man had come out because they thought the idiot savant, the dim-witted lead, Rain Man had kind of milked that for all they could get, and they didn't think it would be successful. So they traded with Paramount. Paramount owned the rights to a little film called Executive Decision. So they traded film rights for that. So Paramount got Forrest Gump, and Warner got Executive Decision.
I wonder if that's almost like a call 'em up. Hey, I'll trade you this first round pick if you give me this other, give me a first and a third.
Oh, I'm sure that it works just like an NFL war room on draft day.
I hope so.
Kevin Costner probably pulled off the trade.
If he didn't, then I'm very sadly disappointed.
If he doesn't call the executive at Warner Brothers a pancake-eating motherfucker like he does in Draft Day, then... Jodie Foster, Nicole Kidman, and Demi Moore all turned down the role of Jenny. Which turned out to be a good thing. I can't see any of them playing Jenny. I think Robin Wright was perfect for that.
Yeah.
I did not know this until researching this today. But the scene where young Forrest is in the room and Elvis Presley's playing guitar, that's the voice of Kurt Russell.
Oh, of Elvis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kurt Russell's the voice of Elvis, which is funny because he plays Elvis in a made-for-TV movie back in 1979. That's directed
really cool.
by John Carpenter.
Huh. Really?
Yeah, that was really cool.
That is.
Tom Hanks' brother Jim doubled for him during many of the running scenes.
Not the Jim we know.
Not the Jim we know, but Jim Hanks, which, digging into Jim Hanks' IMDb, he is the star of a little film from the early 90s called The Bikini Car Wash, which many people probably seen on Skinamax in the 90s at 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And then the last one that I have is Tom Hanks didn't receive a salary for this movie, opting for percentage points from the profits. And doing so, he brought home an estimated, I've seen 3 or 4 different numbers for this, but I just went with the high one, an estimated $99 million for this movie after profits and everything were taken into consideration. Most of I've seen 40 to 65, but somebody also had a $99 million number on there, and that was from 2 years ago. So that's the number I went with.
Now, is that like accruing over time, or is that like
well, I'm
back
sure
in
like
the
when
day?
they make like points, that's the film's box office, what they bring home on home video as well. I think it also means like if they were to sell the film rights to, I don't know, say like AMC or the Paramount Network or MTV or whatever, they sell that and then they receive profits from that too. So
that makes sense. Kind of makes me think of Scarlett Johansson suing Disney right now because they kind of fucked her out of some money.
Yeah. Well, we're not talking about Black Widow. She's not in Forrest Gump. At least I don't think.
You never know. She may be one of the extras.
Well, they do all that time traveling stuff in those movies too. So
True.
All right. You have anything for the research corner?
Yes, sir. So the necklace worn by Lieutenant Dan is a rosary with St. Christopher on it, inscribed "Protect us in combat." It was worn in Vietnam by Gary Sinise's brother-in-law, Jack Treese, in 1967 and 68.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it's nice to have something that's, realistic to, the time.
Mm-hmm.
During the ping pong matches, there is no ball. It's all CGI.
Yeah.
So they CGI'd the ball to where the actor's hand was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Shit, I can't play ping pong like that either. So.
No, I can't either. Not even close. Like, I am the clumsiest ping pong player put on God's green earth, and it shows if anyone's ever played me in that.
That actually reminds me, I saw a TikTok of this grandma playing ping pong, and she fucking fell into like this big hutch. Fell over a whole bunch of chairs. Like, oh no, grandma.
She's probably like, I've seen Forrest Gump. I can do this.
The Medal of Honor ceremony, when Forrest Gump gets it, is actual footage from a ceremony for Sammy L. Davis, who was awarded the Medal of Honor on November 19th, 1968 by President Lyndon B. Johnson for his actions in Vietnam a year earlier. They superimposed Tom Hanks' head onto his body.
Oh, wow, they did?
Yeah.
I seen a making of today. There's a Netflix series called The Movies That Made Us, and their new season just came out, and Forrest Gump was one of the movies that they did. So I think, oh, that'd be cool. After the movie, I'll watch that too. And the scene where he meets John F. Kennedy, to get the handshake motion right, they put John F. Kennedy on the blue screen, and they tried to mimic the handshake.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend checking out that episode after you listen to us. There's got some really cool stuff in there that we can't explain, and I thought it was kind of cool. But we got to make some edits, so they couldn't make the cut for us.
Despite playing his mother, Sally Field is only 10 years older than Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's going to get addressed later on.
And I found this kind of interesting. Tupac Shakur auditioned for the role of Bubba.
Really?
Yeah.
I never seen that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw that on there. I thought that was really interesting.
I hope
I don't know.
I hope it's not one of those things where like Tom Hanks didn't get dragged into the East Coast West Coast battle between him and Biggie.
Who do you think he would have taken?
Well, if Tupac would have been cast as Bubba, I think he would have sided with Tupac. That's what side I was on. In that.
West Coast, huh?
Yeah, both are great rappers, but I would be a West Coast guy.
Fair enough.
All right,
that is all the research that I have, sir.
All right. Some good stuff. Good stuff. There was a ton of like really cool little tidbits in here. Like we just usually cherry pick the best ones that we like. But yeah, there's tons of really cool stuff about this movie too.
Yeah, there was pages and pages and pages.
Mm-hmm. We will now go into the I Drink Your Milkshake Award for the best scene of the movie.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
You know the routine. I usually have 5, and then Lucas will chime in with some selections that he had that differ from mine, and then we pick the winner. The first one I have is Forrest's speech in Washington after he comes home from Vietnam. Really cool that there was only 1,500 people at that, and they digitally added the rest of the people into that scene.
Yeah, to make it like 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
Yeah. And in case you were wondering what Forrest says during his speech that gets cut out by that Army, I think it was an Army general, a high-ranking Army official.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to bust rank on anybody here. But
well, you know that we'd get corrected if we did.
Yeah. A high-ranking Army official pulls the plug on the microphone. But Tom Hanks, in an interview, says that Forrest says in that speech, sometimes when people go to Vietnam, they go home to their mamas without any legs. Sometimes they don't go home at all. That's a bad thing. That's all I've got to say about that.
It seemed like his speech was a little longer than that.
I'm sure he probably slowed it down much slower than I do.
Yeah.
I also have the big storm at sea when Lieutenant Dan has his come to Jesus moment with accepting the fact that he didn't die in combat.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after that, they survive. Their tide turns and they become uber rich shrimp boat captains.
Yeah, God was looking out for him and gave him all that shrimps.
Yeah, I just like that scene because that's kind of like if I just say one day, fuck it. That's kind of how I want to go out. Just like, fuck it. This is how it's going. I'm prepared to accept anything at this point. The running across America montage scene. Lucas, have I told you how much I love a montage?
I think you have mentioned it.
I do enjoy a good montage sequence, and this one is really good. Doing
it takes a montage.
That ought to be whenever I introduce one. We should just do that.
Yeah.
In the research, this scene almost didn't happen. Paramount thought it was too costly to put like all the locations together. So Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks paid for the scenes themselves. And in exchange, they wanted a bigger cut of the movie's profits, which we all know now that was a good call.
Yeah.
Forrest meets his son for the first time, which, pay attention, that's a very young Haley Joel Osment. Before he sees dead people, he's Forrest Gump's kid.
Also, he looks exactly the same as he did when he was a kid, and it creeps me out every time I see him.
Mm-hmm. Well, he looks older now because he is older. Or you just
Yeah,
talking about
but I
now?
mean,
You talking about okay? You're talking about from the Sixth Sense, from Forrest Gump. He looks like okay. I thought you said he looked the same. Now, like he's older now. He's probably in his 30s. The last scene that I have is the Forrest visits Jenny's grave, and then little Forrest gets on the bus. I kind of combine them together. That does kind of hit you in the feels a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine losing the love of your life like that. And then I did like the bus scene because it's kind of a callback to when Forrest gets on the bus for the first time.
Yeah, shows you the difference in time too, because the bus driver was smoking when he got on there, and the bus driver for Forrest Jr. was chewing gum.
Well, it is played by the same actress, but my wife and I were trying to figure out if it's the same woman that picked Forrest up or whether that's her daughter.
You know, I was wondering the same thing. I don't know. That's might be good for a category later. You know, an added category.
Maybe.
I have Jenny letting him sit on the bus with her. So when they meet for the first time,
You can sit here if you want.
can't sit here. Forrest breaking off his braces and running for the first time.
I almost had that one on there too.
When Forrest saves the soldiers in Vietnam, I think that's a big time scene. I think that's pretty awesome. Shows you the kind of character he is, even though technically he wasn't trying to save them. He was looking just for Bubba.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he ended up saving pretty much his whole troop from ambush. And I read when I was doing my research, this could have went in Research Corner, but soldiers that seen this movie said that was the most realistic interpretation of Vietnam they had ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, because you couldn't see the enemy. You just saw the flash, the muzzle flash from their guns. Because a lot of soldiers, a lot of Vietnam soldiers, like northern Vietnam soldiers, would tie themselves to trees and shoot at the Americans and the South Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you killed them, you didn't know because they'd be stuck to the trees.
Right.
Let's see. I have Washington, D.C. with the Black Panthers and the speech at the mall. You already had that one. I think that's really sorry for ruining your Black Panther party. I think that's really funny. And then I also have the end when Jenny comes home, when she passes away, and when the son goes to school.
Oh, you combined all those as one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
I had
sense.
that as one like continuous scene.
Hey, we can cheat on here because that's what we do.
It's our podcast.
Yeah.
I like the part at the end where and it's at the beginning too. The feather kind of symbolizes, in my opinion, I don't know if this actually is true, but symbolizes Jenny finally turning into a bird like she prays to be, and being able to fly away.
I never really thought of it like the feather like that. I always thought of it as like kind of life is like a feather, can kind of take you wherever the wind blows.
That's a good interpretation too. I like it.
I came up with that one stoned one day back in like the late 90s. I was
Dude,
just kind of
thoughts and shower thoughts are like the best thing ever.
yeah. Don't do drugs, kids.
Unless you can do them legally like I did.
Don't do drugs, kids. Don't listen to Uncle Lucas. All right, so what's going to be the winner of this category? Or did you have any more before we awarded the winner?
No, that was
I was going to say I stepped on your shoes last week, and you called me out on it personally. Said I was a dickhead for doing that.
Yeah, I called you up right after. I was like, "You son of a bitch."
Yeah, threatening to quit. It's like, well, you don't get paid for this, so I mean. So what's your winner?
Oh man, it's tough. Maybe, probably the end, just because it all, you know, when Jenny passes away and it all comes together, that big emotional ride through his whole life of loving Jenny, you know, after he had met her and she was kind to him, and then he helped her with her dad, and you know, just her periodically showing up through his life, and then it all culminated with them having a kid together and her passing away. I think that's just a great emotional scene.
I see. Like I actually am going to vote for the Running Across America montage. First off, I do like a montage.
It's a montage.
I'm a sucker for them. But also, like, you just get like the really good stuff with like he comes up with the shit happens bumper sticker.
Sometimes
I still laugh every time when he goes, "Whoa, you just ran into a huge pile of shit," and then like it's like it happens, and then he creates the "Don't worry, be happy" smiley face too. Really incorporates like the soundtrack, which I think is a star in its own right in the movie, which we're not going to dig into that just yet, but you get I think 3 or 4 really good songs off that soundtrack in this too. And then like after realizing that like Paramount didn't want that sequence in the movie, and then Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks gambled on it. Basically, they paid for it themselves to make sure it was in there. So that's kind of got to be my winner.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, God, you made some good points. And I do know you love some montage.
I do. This isn't my favorite montage. We haven't done my favorite montage yet, which I've put it up for vote twice and it's lost both times. So that might be
spoilers on what that is.
No, I'm not spoiling it because then it just people could not vote for it out of spite. That's the one that's going to win for me.
Okay. Well, how about we award different scenes this time?
Yep, split vote. I'm good with that. Good with that. Splitting the vote. All right, so now that leads us into the King Kong Ain't Got Shit on Me award for the best line of the movie.
King Kong ain't got shit on me!
You did mention earlier this is a very quotable movie. There are at least 3 or 4 really iconic lines from this movie, so these are probably going to be mentioned at some point. So I have life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, which makes a lot of sense, especially being an adult. Seems to be more and more true. Run, Forrest, run.
Mm-hmm. Now, think about you and I were both, you were a little older than me in the 90s, but both of us.
Well, I'm a little older than you right now, too.
That is a true
I wasn't
statement.
frozen like Captain America. I am still older than you, but go ahead.
You weren't? Well, shit, this ruins things. No, like, you and I grew up in the 90s. How many times did you hear life is like a box of chocolates and run, Forrest, run?
Mm-hmm.
Like 1.5 million times. That those 2 lines alone are insanely quotable.
Right. I do like Bubba telling Forrest all the different ways you can prepare shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really good. Stupid is as stupid does. Also makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is. I do like that one too. So those are my 5.
That's actually how I feel every day.
Mm-hmm.
I tell that to our number 1 fan, Tina, every time. I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
I'm actually surprised it was a half an hour into this episode before we finally got a Forrest Gump impression.
How was it, by the way?
I'd give it a good solid 6.5. The Olympics are going on right now, so that has a good chance to get you on the medal podium.
I will take a bronze. We
actually right now the scores are coming in. The Russians gave you a 6. The United States gave you a 10, so I think that's an 8.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Now we share notes before we come on the air, so
that's why we're such a good podcast, is because we know what we're going to talk about ahead of time.
That's true. Everybody should listen to us.
They should
tell all their friends.
Tell their friends, and then they can tell their friends, and then they can tell their friends,
and their friends,
and so on, and so on. Call back to Wayne's World, which we did last week. Go check it out right now. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Cheap plug.
I wanted to grab different lines than what you had. So, when he's done running in the montage, he turns around, says, "I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now."
Mm-hmm.
Forrest, when he says me and Jenny go together like peas and carrots.
Mm-hmm.
when Jenny finds out that he's going to Vietnam, she tells him, she says, listen, you promised me something, okay? Just if you're ever in trouble, don't be brave. You just run, okay? Just run away.
Mm-hmm.
Which he does before he realizes that he outruns everybody and leaves, Bubba behind. I'm trying to remember if this was after his mother died, but it was around the time when his mom was dying, at least. Mom always said dying was part of life. I sure wish it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's a heavy line.
It is. He went deep.
And then when Bubba's dying on the river in Vietnam, Bubba was my best good friend. And even I know that ain't something you can find around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Bubba was going to be a shrimping boat captain, but instead he died right there by that river in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Those are my quotes.
I did have two that didn't make the cut, but they deserve strong consideration. When Forrest tells President Kennedy he's got to pee, he still cracks me up. And when Lieutenant Dan tells Forrest and Bubba to take care of their feet, I hate when my feet get wet, and I've lived by that motto ever since I seen that movie. Like, I do not like having wet socks. So,
yeah, if this is kind of my weird thing, if I take my socks off, I will not put the same pair of socks back on. I have to change them.
I'm the same way.
Even if it's for like 2 minutes, I can't do it.
Yeah, did we just become best friends?
Yep.
All right.
Go do karate in the garage?
After this episode, we're gonna put the bunk beds together. All right. So what wins for you? I think it's got to be Life is Like a Box of Chocolates, just because it was pretty much everywhere after this movie came out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, or Run Forrest Run.
Yeah.
Because anytime as a kid, if anybody ran on the playground at school, it was Run Forrest Run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Life is Like a Box of Chocolates is one of the most iconic movie lines. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just give it to Life is Like a Box of Chocolates.
We are in agreement.
An agreement. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to go into the rest of the categories, including perhaps a new one. We'll be right back. All right. We're back. Feels weird taking a bit of a break.
Yeah.
We don't break them up like that. But we've got a lot to go into, so I figured we'd give ourselves time to decompress, get a drink if we need to, and continue.
Nice little seventh inning stretch.
That's right. Now that takes us into the Lou Brown, Give 'em the Heater, for the best bit performance in the movie.
Forget about the curveball, Ricky. Give him the heater.
You do see how I tied those two together, right?
I did. I like it. I like it a lot. I actually have two nominees for this one, and I've got reasons why. So my first nominee is Gary Sinise. He's in it a little more than we normally like, but this movie's really 5 characters, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough to give like a supporting. It's either you nominate one of the people that's under Tom Hanks, or you just give it to somebody that's in the movie for like 10 seconds. So
yeah, that's a fair point.
So Gary Sinise didn't know that this was only his second movie role.
Really?
Yeah, he was a famous theater actor out of Steppenwolf in Chicago that Tom Hanks recommended for this. But yeah, he makes the most of the 21 minutes of screen time he's in. He's really good. And he kind of runs the gamut. He's kind of arrogant and very sure of himself to somebody that can't accept that his fate is different than it was intended. And then he kind of redeems himself. I really like that. I think in most years he probably would have won the Oscar, but the fact that he was going up against Martin Landau, who won, which he's actually really good in Ed Wood, but I don't think he deserved to win it that year. And then Samuel L. Jackson was nominated for Jules in Pulp Fiction, who should have won.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I mean, he crafted the most iconic character in Tarantino's universe, really. one of them, and he didn't win. It's a crime. But I think if Gary Sinise, if this movie would have came out any other year, he probably would have won. But it's just one of those years where like a lot of good performances just like get overshadowed by even grander performances.
Yeah.
And then I also nominated the soundtrack, which we have done this before with our Raiders episode where we nominated John Williams, who did the score for Raiders. I'm doing the soundtrack, just kind of a reason to talk about it a little bit. I love the soundtrack to this movie, even if Zemeckis kind of does the Doors a little too much in this. I think there's like 4 or 5 Doors songs in this.
He really likes the Doors.
He must be a fan. But I really like the soundtrack. It kind of, I think it's a good character in the movie. It kind of pinpoints where you are in the timeline of Forrest Gump's life, because the songs kind of are from the specific era, which I really like that too. And plus, like, the songs are just really good. I mean, that's a really good movie soundtrack.
Yeah, I agree. You got Hound Dog by Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
You got Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
That's an anti-war song too, which they play as Forrest is going into Vietnam. Which they do that a couple of times. Like the songs kind of foreshadow the event. Like the Running on Empty song was played during the running montage.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know it, but that soundtrack is sold over 12 million copies.
Oh, wow.
I own that soundtrack.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't anymore. I don't own CDs, but very few. But yeah, I own that soundtrack at one point.
I mean, it's got some great stuff on there. And then I think for me, this soundtrack and like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are, I feel like the music is almost as big of a character as some of the characters are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. They don't really do it too much anymore, but soundtracks are a really important part of the movie, and I wish that they would put more of them together. Like, they really put thought into them. They don't really do that anymore. But people don't buy music anymore either.
That's true. I mean, you can just go and download the music. So
I'm going to call this one I'm nominating both of them. I'm going to give it to both of them for that reason. Who do you have?
I have Sally Field.
Okay.
As Forrest Gump's mom, because I don't know, she really convinced me that she's, a mother that'll do anything for her son.
Well, and she does.
She fucks the principal.
Yeah.
Your mama sure do care about your education, son. Oh, funny story. I just thought about this. When I was in school, we watched this movie, and I got in trouble for imitating the moaning sounds too much. My teacher got pissed off at me. So I got detention for it.
They let you get away with it, but then it's like, okay, that's enough, Lucas. And then you just kept beating the dead horse.
I did.
Okay. Kudos to your teacher for letting you at least do it for a couple of seconds. I mean, most teachers I would have known, like, nope, that's enough. Stop.
I am uncomfortable.
I'm having a good time. Not. Another Wayne's World reference. Check them out from last week. But who do you have? Anybody else, or Sally Field, your winner?
Just Sally Field.
Yeah. I would have probably nominated her, but she's in another category. Actually, the next one coming up. So I can't really give it to her. She can't go on a run like we had last week. So that's your winner?
That's who I have as my winner.
Okay.
Although I feel like after hearing your argument, I would go with the soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack's really good. I'd probably give it to the soundtrack over Sinise, just because Sinise is in the movie a little too much. But I really wanted to talk about him for a minute, so that's why I nominated him, because he's really good. And I like Gary Sinise as an actor.
Well, plus he took this character and made it like a whole thing for the Army. They do USO shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
he does it pretty much as the character.
Yeah, he's won a couple of humanitarian awards doing that stuff too. That's really cool. The Lieutenant Dan Band.
Oh yeah.
That's what they're
they
called.
do for the USO.
All right. So the soundtrack is going to be the winner?
Soundtrack's the winner.
All right. The Eric Stoltz Award for the performer you would recast. This is where I go into Sally Field. Not taking anything away from her. I really like her. But there was a movie that she'd done in 1988 called Punchline, where she stars as a bored housewife who decides to become a stand-up comic. And through her tour of the comedy clubs, becomes romantically involved with another comic who's played by Tom Hanks. So
that's how pornos start.
That's actually how they do start. Yeah, good point. But the fact that she's only 10 years older than Tom Hanks when this movie was made, and then seeing her in Punchline where they're like kind of romantically involved, I can't see her as his mom. I wish they had maybe cast somebody a little older, like Diane Wiest, who I don't think you know the name, but she's been in a bunch of movies. Did you ever see Parenthood with Steve Martin?
Yes.
She's Joaquin Phoenix's mom.
I
looked it up. She's not much older than Tom Hanks either. Or like someone like Ellen Burstyn, who was in the Exorcist movie. She was Reagan's mom.
Oh, okay.
I could see someone like that. Someone of that ilk playing Forrest's mom. Maybe someone that's older, but not like too much older. So that's who I would recast. But like I said, it's really more of a personal issue with Sally Field, just because I've seen her in a movie where she's involved with Tom Hanks in a relationship. Is my only rationale for wanting somebody else.
Well, and that movie came out not too long before this, 6 years. So that's understandable. I don't have anybody for this. I'm really happy with the casting.
Yeah.
But I'd also never seen that movie. So,
well, it's like I explained to you before we started recording. It's really not that great. So you're not missing anything if you don't see it. That's when Tom Hanks' career was like kind of up and down. He'd make a good movie, make a few turds, make a good movie, turd here or there. That's before he became America's actor.
Got to go through the trials and tribulations, I guess.
Right. All right, our next category is a new one. May show up from time to time. We brought it up for this one just because this has been... I know many of my friends and I have talked about this. We're calling this the unsolved mysteries of the movie, which stuff that like they kind of leave you hanging, like what happens. We need Robert. I wish Robert Stack were still alive. I could maybe try to get him to do a cameo. Just have him just say unsolved mysteries of the movie and just use it until he sues me.
Join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery.
Yeah. Man, which for our younger audience, if you didn't grow up watching Unsolved Mysteries, that show used to scare the utter dog shit out of me.
It did a lot of people. I mean, it creeped me out too.
Yeah.
And like I told you, my brother and I still remember, like we don't anymore, but for the longest time after the show had ended, we still remembered the hotline that you could call if you had any tips for the stories that they had.
Any tips?
Yeah, any tips? But the unsolved mystery of this particular movie is what did Jenny exactly die from?
I always thought it was cancer.
Oh, I had never heard that.
Yeah, I always thought it was cancer just because, she didn't look necessarily the healthiest when she revealed that they had a son, but she also didn't look like she was necessarily dying either. And I always figured it was cancer because Forrest didn't have any health issues and their son didn't seem to have any health issues, So right. I always equated it to cancer.
Well, researching this, there's two schools of thought. The screenwriter of Forrest Gump, Eric Roth, said in an interview in 2019 that Jenny died of HIV. which that seems to be the consensus because it's kind of an unknown illness. I think the timeline when she dies is 81, 82.
Yeah.
So I think that's the very early stages of the AIDS epidemic.
Mm-hmm. And she was sharing a lot of needles and sleeping with a lot of people. So
right. Winston Groom, the author, though, says that she died of hepatitis C, which I put on my medical researcher's cap, which I moonlight as a TV doctor. So, but I guess apparently hepatitis C really wasn't identified too until like the late 80s. They knew about it, but they didn't have a name for it until then. And she says in the movie that they don't know exactly what it is. It's an illness. So either one of those makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, I from personal family members, I know a little bit about hepatitis C. My uncle passed away from hepatitis C.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I know a little bit about that.
Now, in that same interview with Eric Roth from 2019, I didn't know this at the time. I had heard that they were talking about it, but I didn't really know that they got that far into it. They talked about doing a Forrest Gump sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in the sequel, they were going to have it that their son was going to have the HIV virus. And it was going to be him
fucking dark
living with it. And I was... Yeah, I seen that. I was like, I'm so glad after I read that. I'm so glad they didn't go forward with that because that just kills everything that made this movie good.
Yeah, this movie is about the underdog winning. I mean, what kind of winning would it be if it's about his son going through all the trials and tribulations of HIV and AIDS, which. That sequel was actually done, and on September 10th, 2001, but because of September 11th, they decided to cancel the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know why they decided to cancel it and not go forward with it, but yeah, something with 9/11 made them not go forward with it.
Right. Well, I mean, and the fact that you're going to go take that road just. Plus, to me, it's one of those movies you don't really need a sequel for. Like, just leave it alone. I think we've seen everything we need to see with the Forrest Gump character. Like, I don't really care to revisit him again because then it's just like you're kind of copying. Like, what are you going to have him do this time?
Right. Yeah, I feel like we got the closure. You know, it started off as the love story between him and Jenny, and it ended with the love story of him and Jenny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know, like, I don't know which one would be the reason of her death. I would probably go with the author because it's his original vision.
Right.
And basically the job of a screenwriter when you're adapting a book is you take the vision of the author and try to make it into like what would work in a movie. So I'm going to side with Winston Groom. I know no one really interacts on the socials too much, but if you want to, I would love to hear some input on this particular question. Let us know what you think. If you got any interesting theories, you can reach us. Just check out the episode description we have where you can contact us at. So hit us up. Let us know your theories on it. Maybe Jenny was a secret spy and she got poisoned or something. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool too.
That's a plot twist.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see some more unsolved mysteries of the movie down the road.
I really like this category. I think it's fun.
I think Adam, when he puts like the little interludes in between the categories, the unsolved mystery sting would be really cool, but we can't use it. So maybe we'll just have Robert Stack saying unsolved mysteries. That'd be kind of cool. All right.
Yeah.
All right, the final category is Who Wins the Movie? We're calling this the I'm the King of the World award. Still going with that?
Yep.
I think since we're 4 episodes into it now, we may as well stick with it.
I think so. I'm the King of the World!
Who wins the movie for you?
Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks wins this movie. He makes it, this is one of the most iconic characters of all time, really. He makes you believe that somebody who has mental disability and a physical disability can overcome it and have a great life. He shows what it is to love and not be loved in return, and still love somebody even though you shouldn't, which, as you know, I've been through that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I am a little slow. But I just I don't know, the lines, the soundtrack, him being the front and center of all that. I know you disagree, but I feel like he deserved the Oscar for this, and I feel like this is the best movie of 1994 because of Tom Hanks.
Oh, I never said he didn't deserve the Oscar. I probably would have given it to him too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I figured you would have given it to somebody from Shawshank.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I don't know. Morgan Freeman is pretty awesome as Red.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But he's not the lead character in that, though.
I think it's more of a.
He would be a supporting actor.
I think it's more of a crime that Tim Robbins didn't get a nomination for that. But we'll save the Shawshank conversation for another episode. Maybe even the Shawshank Redemption episode. Maybe. I agree with you.
Something coming down the line.
Maybe. I agree with you. I'm going to give it to Tom Hanks too. Yeah, like you said, Forrest is probably one of the most iconic characters, at least of the 90s, for sure. He won a second Oscar for this, second in a row. That's only been done one other time. Spencer Tracy, which our audience, 99% of them probably don't know who that is. I hope you do.
I also don't know who that is.
I'm not surprised. I think this kind of solidified Hanks as the best actor in Hollywood at that point. He went on a run that, I don't think anybody has rivaled. I just looked it up just to give you an idea. From 92 through 95, he did, in a row, A League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia,
Streets of Philadelphia,
Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, and Toy Story.
Just like those, what was that, 2-3 years? Just those 2-3 years right there. Incredible.
And then after that, he had Toy Story. I'm trying to think I can't think of the timelines exactly, but he did Saving Private Ryan, Toy Story 2, The Green Mile, and Castaway.
Yeah,
which he should have won a third Oscar for, but
yeah, that run is ridiculous, though.
But the most important thing, I think, for me, why he wins this movie is, I know we kind of went over some of the people that they considered to play Forrest Gump, but I can't see any of them doing it the way he did it and being that good at it.
Right.
Some of those are just insulting to think that they were considered, but yeah, I can't see anybody but Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump. I just couldn't do it. And to me, I think that's the sign of somebody being good at what they do is if you can't, they make that role so their own that no one else can pull it off.
Yeah. You believed that he was Forrest Gump going through that in his life.
Right. So that's who wins it for me.
Sounds like we're in agreement. Sounds like we need to send him an award in the mail.
I think Tom Hanks would be one of the few people that if we did send that to him, he'd be he would at least oh, okay. He'd just file it in his desk or a filing cabinet. He just wouldn't crumble up and throw it in the trash like Harrison Ford would have.
I can see Harrison Ford just angrily, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, if he would have won The Fugitive and our Raiders episode, he's like, why are they fucking sending me this shit again? All right. Well, I guess final thoughts. This was kind of a fun one to go back and look at. Like I said, it's over time, it's not as good as I remember when I seen it in '94. But it's still a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I still enjoy it. I still think it's good, but just like, because I thought when this came out in '94, I thought this was phenomenal. Like, I think I've seen this in like the theaters like 3 times. Like many people, that's why it did so well at the box office. People seen it numerous times.
Yeah.
But it doesn't resonate with me the way that it did in '94. And to me, it just hasn't aged quite as well as I would expect an iconic movie to do.
Yeah. I grew up with older parents. So like the soundtrack, with the classic music, like, Creedence Clearwater, even the Mamas and the Papas. My mom loved the Mamas and the Papas.
Mm-hmm.
So California Dreamin' being on there. And I really have always been into history. So seeing all the historical events on there, and then, just the hero tale and the love tale, and, just all of that coming together is why I love this movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I could watch, this is one of there's not many movies that I can watch repeatedly and never get tired of it, but this is definitely one of them.
All right. Good deal. Well, fun facts and interesting stuff all around from Lucas. So glad that we were able to do one of your favorite movies instead of me being in control of everything we do every week. So that's kind of cool.
I liked it too.
All right. And that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Couch Brotato Podcast. We hope you liked Forrest Gump. It was kind of a fun ride revisiting that one. Lucas, what do we got on tap for next Monday?
Well, my friend, let me tell you, we got Bad News Bears, and get this, we got a guest who we've never had on the show before.
Oh, saucy. Now, we're doing the 1976 Bad News Bears, not the 2005 one, correct?
Right, not the shitty Billy Bob Thornton one.
Right, okay, cool. We're doing the Walter Matthau one from 1976. And the fact we got somebody brand new is kind of cool, too. So that ought to be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Guy we've known for a really long time.
Yeah, and he absolutely adores this movie. So this ought to be a good one.
Awesome.
All right. Well, be sure to check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next Monday, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for stopping by, everybody.
Bye.